let's move on to what is probably the biggest story this week and probably our main story this week, and that is TikTok. And TikTok might actually get banned in the US this time. So today, actually March 13th, as we record this morning, the House of Representatives passed a bill to ban TikTok in the US by a vote of 352 to 65. And this is based on, the reason for this is based on the ownership structure being what is quoted as a US national security threat. And that's as much detail as they're apparently willing to give us. President Biden has said that he will sign this into law if he's presented with it. So it has one more hurdle, and that still needs to go through Senate approval, which, is not a guarantee. This is not a guarantee at this point, but it's closer than it's ever been. And this actually looks like it appears to be an actual bipartisan agreement, which, if you know anything about U.S. politics these days, is extremely unusual. We never seem to agree on anything left and right these days, and this is something that a group of left and right agree on, and a group of left and right disagree on. So this bill would actually require TikTok's Chinese parent company ByteDance to divest from the app within 165 days, which means sell the US part of it, basically, or else it will be removed from US app stores. So TikTok is already banned on US government devices. We know that already. So, Bobby, what do you think? What do you think about this? Are we going to see this go all the way this time? What do you think? And you think we're no longer going to be able to download TikTok in the US app stores?
Yeah, I think it's going to get banned this time. I think given the amount of people that voted on each side in the House, and the Senate isn't saying which way they're going to go, which means that the negotiations have started. The
lobbying is there.
The lobbying is there. Everyone's lobbying it. The weird thing about this is, I went back and I didn't know what to think about this. Number one, so I followed, and I don't want to give out where I lean which way on this for conservative Republic, but I watched both sides of this because I was genuinely curious. What are people saying about this bill? And I came to the consensus that there is a lot of people on both sides of this that think that if we give the U.S. government the ability to ban an app, they could ban another app. And while we say, well, that won't happen, it's just China, but the way they feel like if you give the government a stick, they'll take it and they'll use it a lot. So in that regard, I'm kind of on the side of don't ban it, but I'm also at the same time, is the data going to China? 100% is going to China. And I wish the government would come out and tell us, here's the specific case that we're worried about. Here's the national security threat that we're worried about, that they can do this, this, and this in order to achieve this goal. And I think that's what they need to tell us about.
Right. And that's what they're not going to tell us about.
They're not telling us that because we're probably doing the same thing with Facebook in India and TikTok in India or whatever.
100%.
Now, the other thing I've heard is there's a lot of people that are saying we should ban it because China banned every other social media app in their country, and so we should do it to them, and they should just do it out of reciprocity or whatever they want to say, and that's why we should ban it. There's a lot of U.S. people that own parts of TikTok, so I'm sure that's probably why they're being lobbied so hard, because there's some U.S. interest on this as well as China interest.
Yeah.
And you can see it was crazy. I mean, if you're not a Trump fan or whatever, that's okay. But Kellyanne Conway is lobbying the Senate on behalf of TikTok, which is what?
That's suspicious. Sure, that's crazy. I mean, that's suspicious, isn't it? I mean,
what? I don't understand. Why?
Yeah.
Why we were anti-China last week and now you're not? I mean, I don't understand.
Also, the Trump angle on this too is that he changed his mind as well.
He changed his mind
from literally going from an executive order to ban this that didn't go through because of illegal action to now being no, we shouldn't ban it because I don't like Facebook. It's so suspicious.
Easy one, because he's been using TikTok, and China probably has this whole history that they're listen, buddy, listen. We will release
Truth
this
Social, man. You know that, man.
Right away. If you, I mean, I think unless there's and I agree with Bobby, unless there's a clear way that they could show that there's some risk, caused by TikTok. I think it's if they're gonna ban it, it shouldn't be they banned it and we don't know the reason why. Basically, that's what I'm saying. It's we need to know why, and if it's something stupid because someone just wanted to, that's not a good enough reason. There's got to be, And that's the thing. And that's
Agreed.
coming to your point, like, because then if they could ban TikTok, they could ban any other app. And I think that's like,
Yes.
regardless like how you look at what the world, I think there is this, and I don't know if TikTok is like part of this, and even if that's like an like issue because it's just an app that people dance and watch like funny videos. I'm sure they have like other stuff there as well, but like the point is that it's like censorship. It's like how do you decide what to censor? And unless there's like a really good reason for like some real threat, I don't think you should just go, well, I'm going to censor this person because they made fun of me or something, or like whatever. And I think like this is something that's happening not just on like via TikTok, but everywhere, where people like, if we don't agree with this message, we're going to come up with some sort of way to censor it or remove it from the store or what have you. And I don't think that is good. And I'm sure like some people have, it's really bad. But some people say like we have the best intentions because we don't want to, have people be, see like certain types of things and like whatever. But it's like, let the people decide. Don't decide for them. That's like my biggest thing.
You have exactly the same opinion as me. That's exactly what I said when I saw this. I was like, we need to make the decision. We need to be informed as to why you want to ban this. Telling us it's a US national security threat is not enough, because that's your opinion. I need to know exactly why you feel like it's a US national security threat. So, and I'm telling you now, the reason they are not telling us why is because we are doing exactly the same thing in reverse. And they don't want to put it out there. That's like, because as soon as we say, well, it's because of this reason, and China's collecting all of this data, and we know that China's, when you get this data, we know you can do X, Y, Z with it. And how do we know? Well, because we have the same data and we're doing the same thing.
Here's like this other side of it, like, because it is, let's say, not US controlled for like the sake of the argument. Does that make the app more fair because there's no limitations for like what kind of stuff you could post on it, like as US citizens? Versus like in China, for instance, they obviously watch everything, but it's like, is it like more afraid that people could speak and put whatever content they want? I'm sure there's moderation. I'm sure there's like certain things you can't do, but maybe just because US doesn't have full control of it, that's the issue.
I don't think it's full control over the content of it, because I mean, we would have seen an issue with that by now. We would have said like, hey, it's got like whatever against the US laws, it's on there. That would be a problem like by now. But they would just tell us like, hey, it's got whatever it's got on it that we don't like, right? But I don't think that's the case. I think the case is it's gathering data and it's going to a foreign government. They just don't like the fact that they know that data is super valuable. It's highly like, you can do a lot with it. And the US government knows you can do a lot with it because they collect the same data on all the other apps.
Right. So
it's just dangerous. They know how dangerous it is, but they won't tell us how dangerous it is because...
But I think like to take your argument farther, and again, I'm like hypothetically putting my tin hat, because just in case they're listening.
Mine's tin hat too. I don't know that this is the case.
But here's the thing. Is it because they're afraid for the national security from China's sake, or are they jealous that China gets information that US wants? And so US wants to keep, like, because I saw another like article about how certain banks share your history of purchasing for anybody who asks without telling you, so they could start building a profile about you and kind of figure out where you're at. And all these social media apps is basically what they're doing, is that you as a user, based on your interests, based on the things that you're doing, they build up a certain profile. And that's important information because you kind of get to gauge what is like, where's everybody at in, let's say, United States or in China, like in terms of like their feelings. And I think if you could get a pulse on how, let's say, the nation is feeling based on all these profiles that you created hypothetically, you could then create campaigns that could sway people or point or make people like come to certain conclusions that they wouldn't like. So basically, I came from a communist country. So to me, like if someone's listening and they're like, you're overly paranoid, like to me, it's like, is it just because people want the data so they could influence us better? And it doesn't like mean in any like negative ways. It could be like make us buy certain things more or like whatever, it's like stuff like that.
My assumption is that TikTok doesn't necessarily collect any more data than any other app does.
So here's the big conspiracy theory. The one that I don't think anyone's talking about, the one that I think it may be true. Maybe the Android OS and the iOS isn't as secure as we think it is. and they have this. TikTok has the same backdoors that all the other social media apps do in the U.S. is getting the information, not just about the app it's gathering, but everything on the device, period, through the app. And so they know that TikTok can do the same thing because they've released an app on there.
Right.
And the conspiracy is Apple and Android are in on it, and they've been giving information to the government, and they're telling them like, hey, you told us to make these backdoors. TikTok has the same thing. And they're like, okay, well, we need to ban it.
Yeah.
But we can't come out and say that because then everyone will know that
then we shut our door too. Exactly.
And then Apple's outed and Android's outed, and you realize that, oh, it's just a government control conspiracy.
I feel if that was the case, though, like that, like what you described does have like severe, threat. And I would think they would just be like, you know what, we're banning like TikTok. It wouldn't be like this long, prolonged like way of thinking, regardless of how the public feels. I feel.
It is weird, though, that no security researcher has ever come out and said what's wrong with TikTok.
Do you know why? I'll tell you why. Because if you listen to any of the security researchers,
you've went to these conferences to give us some insight.
So they'll tell you like your phone itself is not secure. Like forget the apps.
Right.
They'll just tell you like the app, like it's the least of your problems. Like your phone by itself is already not secure. Like form of like there's no privacy. Like and and so that's the scary part. And I think that's why. And by the way, if you do ask the security researchers about TikTok, they're like, why are you even using it? But it's so far, like you had to mess up so many times to get to TikTok that they assume that you're not that stupid. But that's all the people who are like in that world. So they don't realize that majority of us don't even think about this like at all. We don't.
But this is also kind of my point is that TikTok is no different in the data that it collects than any other app that's out there, or the OS or whatever. The only difference is here
where it lives.
The data's going to China.
Yeah,
that's the only difference. And this is the reason. This is the reason they don't want to tell us. Well, it's not. I don't think even think it's jealous. We already have the data from whatever other app. They just don't want to also give it to China.
Yeah.
And if there is subliminal messaging that comes out and they can influence elections, and they know that TikTok can do that, then I guess the U.S. says, well, we're going to control our elections here, and we're going to.
Yeah, they're going to do the same.
We're going to do our own subliminal messaging, damn it.
We want our own messaging on there, It's like,
yeah. I mean, I think 1984 is definitely going to happen, but it's going to happen in a very subtle way where we won't realize it. And it's just like, I think like this is what I've kind of came to conclusions. Like the more technological the world gets, the less freedom we're going to have. Not because someone trying to, on purpose do that, maybe, but it's because it's just almost impossible in the with all this information out there. Like, how do you stay private? Like because you have to use all these services, and these services know everything about you, and so you kind of give up privacy for convenience. And the idea is though, how important are you that that you should care? Like most people are like, oh, like I'm just some dude that works here and I just make pizzas and or whatever, and I do I don't care if people watch me or get the data. But where does it end? And it ends with 1984. If I was being super paranoid, which I'm not. But for U.S. folks though, I think they just have to know, if they're having problem with TikTok, like to your point, Kevin, Facebook is doing the same thing to us. They're just the 100%. Data just lives with them. And so it's not don't hate on TikTok if you're not equally going to hate on Facebook or Instagram or the
Twitter files showed us that the FBI had back-ends to Facebook and Twitter at the time.
Yeah, we've known this stuff for over a decade now, too.
Yeah.
The Snowden with thing. That's 10 times more advanced than that now. And we knew they were collecting it all back then. So it's it's the same, even more sophisticated.
But I guess they don't control this data set, and the U.S. says we have to control all data sets in the U.S.
Exactly. I think that's the issue here. So what do you think the outcome of this is then? Let's say that it does. Let's say the bill passes, okay? Let's say that it does. Do you think it gets sold, or do you think it gets banned?
It gets sold. But I will say this, China could play hardball and go, we ain't selling it. But I do think it would be bid on, put it that way. Okay. Will China sell it, or will they be upset? I don't know. Will they sell it to a third party and then try to influence that third party again and be more subtle about it?
That would be a good bet, wouldn't it?
So if a big tech company buys it, I wouldn't put it past them to open up the back door back to China again. So if Microsoft, I wouldn't put it past them to do that kind of stuff for a fee or whatever it is. Now, if an individual buys it, we'll see. Will Elon buy it? I think that's what we should put on the board.
Oh gosh, I hope
I
not.
know he should have bought TikTok. I mean, Jesus.
I mean, what's the likelihood he puts his bid in? He hasn't said anything about it. Mr. Wonderful said he would buy it.
Yeah, he's not Elon rich. That's the difference.
Yeah.
He might have the money, but that's all of his money. Like, because they're going to overestimate the price of this thing. They really are. They think this is over. They're going to put an overvalue on it for sure because they're kind of being forced to sell it. This isn't on sale.
Yeah.
This is like, this is the high end
forced sales always lead to like ridiculous prices because the Clippers, when Donald Sterling got fired from the Clippers and they said, you got to sell the team in 30 days.
Yeah.
It went for $700 million.
Yeah.
Overvalued. And they were like, this guy's a racist. You need to sell your thing. And I'm like, you just made the guy almost $1 billion overnight.
Yeah.
But, now it's owned by, another guy from Microsoft. So Paul Allen or whatever. So, but still, it was 2 times the price of any other NBA franchise that had ever been sold.
Right.
So
it'll be the same issue here.
The Panthers were the same way. It's like the Panthers got forced to force the guy out and then forced sell. And it was like a lot of money to buy the Panthers.
Yeah.
So I think this would go for, I don't know what. If Twitter was 44 billion, what is TikTok?
$1 trillion.
90 billion? 900 billion?
$1 trillion. It's
100
ridiculous.
billion, twice the price of Twitter.
First of all, though,
Maybe.
how's the younger generation going to react if they find out they can't use TikTok?
Oh, man,
I think they're
gonna
going
be
to all
mad.
come together, and I think it's going to crash the whole
Do you know?
US.
Or would they be mad for a week and then something else comes out?
To be honest, they would just they would move for something else. Who am I kidding? They're gonna come together and revolt. No, they're just gonna go back to Instagram or whatever.
If
which
this
is
does
annoying.
get banned, it will help other platforms. I'm not denying that it will help Facebook.
Gonna-
No question. It'll push people to Facebook Reels or Instagram Reels. There's no question it will.
Snapchat could have a resurgence.
But I'm okay with that. Whatever.
I can't stand short content, and I also can't stand the fact that they want to engage you for a while. So I watch a lot of funny videos, comedians, cat videos, and then once in a while, out of nowhere, it's a ridiculous car crash in the gruesome detail. I'm like, why? Why are you putting it here?
The
And
algorithm
it's like
thinks
they
you
want to
like it,
shock
Paul.
you.
TikTok is testing you, Paul.
No, it's Instagram. Instagram. Yeah, they are testing you. They're like, are you going to watch more? They're trying to decide. So I think to me, the big issue is not so much Instagram, TikTok. It's this concept of short, content that gives you an insane dopamine. I've never done cocaine, but I'm assuming it's literally no different. Doing cocaine and going on Instagram or whatever.
I think
TikTok.
that format's here to stay at least for a minute, but I think just like
I know.
everything else, it'll go
It's
away.
terrible.
It'll change.
You think
It'll
so?
die,
I don't think.
it'll
I think.
morph into
I
something.
think it's going to get closer and closer to our face until it's right inside our eyeballs. I think that's what's happening. I don't think it'll ever go back. I went outside the other day and I was just looking at trees and I was just wow, this is just this. It was it felt foreign for a minute because I was oh, I don't definitely get enough of this, which was terrible. And
You think the ultimate form of this is 3 frames directly projected onto your eyeball,
Yeah,
and that's
literally.
it? And then the next 3, and then the
Mr.
next 3, and then the next 3.
So in China, there's a streamer. She does unboxing, and she charges tons of money, and that unboxing lasts 2 seconds. It's literally you have to look up the video somewhere. It's a conveyor belt of people throwing box stars. She just opens it, quickly glances it, and then throws it away. And then it's just
Wow.
and she makes bajillion dollars. I was Jesus, and that's what's gonna happen. It's our attention span is gonna get so little that we won't even be able to literally. We'll you know what they're gonna do? They're trying to figure out how can you post 2 different images on 2 different eyeballs. I think that's what they want. They just
you won't
want,
be able to.
so
Yeah,
much-
yeah. You won't be
Yeah.
able to consciously
Yeah.
take it in. It'll all be subconscious.
Yeah, right, right, exactly. So our eyeballs are literally the thing that doesn't move fast enough, and I think it's annoying because I've been seeing this stuff kind of creeping into my life. So when I'm switching screens on my MacBook, I'm switching so fast because I'm so used to just quickly being able to look at a snapshot of something and identifying if I should continue watching it. And I'm just nah,
It is kind of weird.
It is.
So let me ask you a
crazy.
question. Do you think we ever get to the point to where we've been trained to watch something so quick that even TikTok becomes boring. Like it's just not
100%.
fast
Yeah, that's what I'm
100%
saying.
is
Like,
gonna
yeah,
happen.
and then
yeah,
we just
yeah.
quit social media
Yeah.
altogether because
Yeah.
I don't think
No,
we're
no,
gonna
it just
quit.
becomes-
I think people are going to become starved zombies.
Yeah,
and
it
it's
becomes
like,
a subconscious thing. All of a sudden,
Yeah.
you're like, I have no idea why, but I really want Pepsi.
so
Like,
yeah. So right. But here's the thing: like I try not to like partake in the shorts, but once in a while, like I do, and I find that people who designed and created that concept, they're like geniuses because they knew exactly how to create something that is addicting. The algorithm will reward you with even better video that you watched before
Yep.
to like try to extort as much time from you as possible. And if you have like any addicting like kind of personality, like you could completely spend like so much time on TikTok. And I actually have a rule, like I try to not engage with short content because I can't turn it off. Like if I'll start watching it, it'll be like forever. So like I literally watch long form content on YouTube. That's like the only way I do it. It's just
I can
'cause,
imagine
I
you
can't-
like 4 a.m. in the morning, like your eyes are like this. You're just
It's
like
not even,
cat
you're
videos.
not even making a story. It's not even making like that. Like actually happened multiple times. Where I'm like the next day at work, I'm like, why did I watch? And so here's an interesting thing. I did an experiment on Instagram because I don't have TikTok. So they recommend complete like random videos because they don't care. They don't recommend like what your friend did. The like forget friends on Instagram. You know how like
Oh,
on
yeah,
Instagram
yeah,
you
that's
used to
not how
go
it
to like
works.
see
Yeah,
like
yeah.
what is my friends doing? Like I don't even know who my friends are on Instagram anymore, and they just recommend different content, and they're constantly probing to figure out like what's going to give your attention. So what I did for 2 hours, because I was like, because I realized that doing it a few times is just doesn't do. I wanted to see, can I retrain the algorithm? And so for every video I saw, I said not interested, block, not interested, block, not interested, block. I did that for 2 hours. There's no shortage of garbage videos that will continue to recommend indefinitely until something sparks your attention. And to me, that was like what was very insidious, is that there's no winning. Like unless you are able to have this control over yourself to be like, let me put my phone down, you already lost. Like unless you have self-discipline, like, and so to me, like I remember back in the day, like my family, like, oh, you watch TV 2 hours, like who the hell spends 2 hours on Instagram or TikTok? It's like more like 4 hours, 10. It's ridiculous. Like if people actually look at their phone, which keeps track, and see how
Yeah,
much
you can
screen
see
time-
how long you've used the screen time. Yeah,
it
definitely.
is insanity. And so I'm like, that's the evil part for me, because some people like me, we don't have good self-control to be like, all right, just walk away. So the way I consume like social media apps, I delete them after I'm done. There has to be like an additional step that I have to take. So for me to go on Instagram right now, I have to re-download it again, and I have to sign in again. I make sure that it does, like, just because like I need those extra steps, because otherwise if it's too convenient, yeah, I'm an addict, like seriously. Like let me tell you. And
it's just cat videos, Paul. They get you.
Dude,
They get you.
No, listen.
As soon as
I
you
love
like
music.
one.
So I love music, right? So I listen to like a music production stuff or whatever. And every video is like an ad for me to buy something. And I'm like, maybe that's what I need. And I literally fall into that stupid thing. Like,
this is why
like,
you're buying
you have
two
no
of
idea
everything,
how many
Paul.
extensions I bought due to Instagram controlling my brain.
You're looking on TikTok. TikTok Shop is like a real thing.
No,
like
no.
It's
Yeah.
it's
no,
big time.
Forget it. No, thank God I don't have TikTok.